Hey there, Goa fans. Mark DJ Solitaire here with episode 44 of Retro Goa Explorations, my series in which every episode I share a track from the 1990s Goa Trance psychedelic dance movement. We're in the 95 and 96 season, so we're talking about tracks that I remember specifically from that season, some produced before, generally tracks that I have a clear recollection of having heard at specific events or when I got them on CD or was introduced to them otherwise by some friends. And today is an interesting episode because I know absolutely nothing about this project. And I think this track opens up for us a little possible discussion about the breadth of the music in the scene. Um, because before Goa Trance was called Goa Trance, I mean, it wasn't called anything. It was just kind of that music, and I remember specifically being at that first event that I've talked about so many times where I heard Ollie play in 1994. And I was like, what is this? Like, what's this thing? What are these events? What is this music? What are we, what is this whole, I could feel that there was some kind of scene, that it was something regular. But yeah, so I just knew that there was this musical language that I was really intrigued by. And so I I've been intrigued and curious about how things have gotten narrowed down. As you define things, they become hardened and more rigid. And initially the naming and understanding of, oh, okay, Goa or Goa Trance, you know what to look for in the record store. But you might also miss something that would sound equally good in a Goa set that isn't filed in that category. And that's really what this music was like initially. There was no genre of, Goa trance. Musicians were playing techno, they were playing, this Belgian um, music that was, you know, led into and started evolving into Goa trance and German stuff and so on. So this track today is one that I remember specifically was a signature track of DJ Mick, whose key energy parties were among the wonderful regular events that I was attending in Japan in 95 and 96. Um, I remember always being able to tell when he was behind the decks, and this is something I've talked about recently and earlier, that he had a clear signature uh, and a clear style. And there was always this beautiful, spiritual, aerated, floaty kind of atmosphere to his sets. And there was a spaciousness and a mystical quality, but it was, it felt quite streamlined and there was heart in it. I remember at the time a few folks saying, when they heard some Goa stuff, they found it a bit heartless. They found it a bit clinical and a bit mechanical, which, some of it can be, and it's great. But that's the whole thing, is that, each musician has their style, and ideally there's a range of styles within that person's style. So mixed style was really unique. And he is still DJing. We met up in Tokyo a few years ago, but he moved away from the scene because guess what? They stopped making the kind of music he liked. Things evolve and things change and people move away from certain styles. And so this track is one that I remember him playing a lot. And we've got some film footage from the same outdoor party that I featured when I presented Robo Sticks by Transwave. It's the same outdoor September 1995 event, which I was present at. And so this track took me a long time to find, and thank goodness I did. And it is by a project called Cyberjam, and it's called Alpha Flight. Cyberjam apparently is the project of Gunnar Kreuziger. I don't know who Gunnar Kreuziger is, but hats off, maestro, because this track is brilliant. It was released in 1995 on Influence Recordings. Definitely had an influence on me and an influence on Nick, and he had an influence on a lot of people when he played this. I mean, it is really a beauty. So I managed to track it down through a colleague of mine who's a great collector, and I played it at ZNA in 2017. This track always struck me as a kind of Ethnica, Pleiadians, and that early trance wavy kind of sound in terms of the synths that were used, the sort of the sound signature, as well as the harmonic signature that's used. And I think this is a beauty. So we're going to listen to the track now. Then I'll talk a little bit more about it. We'll see what sort of inspiration comes to me as well. And I'm also going to share a little bit of the video from that outdoor event where you can see the effect of this track on the crowd. So here we go. Alpha Flight by Cyberjam. Ooh, listen to this voice-like chorus. Listen to this interval that's really beautiful. Okay, so, I mean, just this progression. First of all, there's that bouncing note there, but this really has a Close Encounters of the Third Kind of vibe, wouldn't you say? So really, it's just like this sort of signal being beamed, again, being beamed out, being beamed back down, and that oscillating bass. Beautiful bouncy sound. And I just love the way this just slowly builds. Like this. Bit of a simple progression, but it really works. Again, just the tension that comes from that oscillation. These beautiful long intros that they used to have sometimes. And then it's a fast one. Just really feel like this momentum, this track. Really great track for, I think, for a sort of, it's great in the middle of the night, but also great sort of in that dusk and sunrise kind of, you know, if you're sort of going to have one of those ecstatic sunrise kind of sets. Listen to that beautiful offset hi-hats there. Now, something that you'll notice is the engineering is not right on in terms of the timing, and that's great because it just gives us excitement. You know, like there's just this kind of tension going on. Sort of all the different parts are like trying to catch up with one another. I love that signature. This is one of the things that really puts me in mind of Transwave and Pleiadians and Ethnica. Right, so again, we just have these loops and these cycles of 8 bars going on. Nice break without the kick, and then now this is a little bit more rave, right? But this works. It's just that simple one note, and when it's in the context of all these other voices, totally works. And again, it can sound like, you know, this kind of siren that's being set off. Again, notice how the kick comes out, and then some of that undulating way it comes up and comes down. I mean, you really just imagine these waters like, you know, in space, and then just these quantum waves coming out. You have that. That's how those different lines work together beautifully. This is a really long middle section, and it works beautifully. I'm just going to start building up. It's like this is that peak sort of like alien voice coming in here. The other ones pull out. And the place will explode when that happens, as you'll see. You know, so all of these voices as well end up on a big system having this kind of mathematical little flavor, right? Like each one's this kind of equation that sort of becomes this little fractal kind of pattern. And there's another one that's going to be coming in that hasn't been introduced yet, but that one really gives that kind of flavor. Right, so you just have this musical pattern. It's got some kind of energetic signature. It's got some kind of message. I just feel that kind of tension. All this bubbling activity. So really you get that feeling like you're inside this musically mathematical equation. And it's got so much warmth and heart to it as well. I love the rhythm of this pattern, the fact that it's not just equal arpeggios, right? There's a little bit of a pause on it. Right, and that's where you would be mixing, or a little bit, yeah, after that, but that would sort of continue into the next track. What an amazing track. One of, I'm sure, many tracks that's just really overlooked because it wasn't picked up by a mainstream Goa label, wasn't, you know, a lot of DJs might not have come across that. So a lot of those DJs might, like Mick, no longer be active in our scene. And we lose out, right? There's really some exquisite beauty and richness in these tracks that are sort of a little bit on the periphery, or, you know, outside of some of the mainstream top 10 artists. Not that there's anything wrong with a lot of our top 10 artists. I mean, you know, they're there for a reason. And we need to really check out things that are on the periphery of our scene and see what fits. I think Tsuyoshi has been probably among the bigger artists. I think he's been the one who most does this, plays things outside the box, plays things that are a little bit just outside of the realm, and makes it work. So yeah, this is a really, really great track. Now, I want you to see again what the atmosphere was like in Japan in 1995, where, this was a Sunday afternoon, just on the edge of Yoyogi Park, where there would often be, some rock bands and rockabilly dancers, I mean, guys dressed up like to the T, like absolutely perfectly in 1950s gear. And not this day, or not in that particular location. There was like hundreds of folks while DJ Kudo and Mick and some others played. Kudo was, by the way, I mean, he was, kind of godfather, if not the father, the master of the scene. He's the one that Tsuyoshi and Nick Taylor used to go out dancing to. So he played, and then Mick played, and Mick played this track. And as you can see, it, what can I say? There was no lid on the place, but it blew the energetic lid off the place. Check it out. I really consider myself fortunate to have gotten into the scene in Japan where the energy was so uplifting, so clear. People would really go for it. It was all just a really safe, respectful place for people to get pretty wild at times on the dance floor. And as you can see as well, an international crowd, right? Lots of folks from outside of Japan dancing very peacefully with the Japanese folks. And it was just an incredible, incredible vibe. And this is really, I think, the energy that I've brought with me that I still expect and hope that our scene can embody and that I think folks have felt. But I think it is different when you experience this first in a country that's not your own. So you're already somewhat cut off from your formative influences, and the usual tethers to your identity. And so for me, as an outsider, so to speak, in Japan, being so welcomed and feeling so like, oh my gosh, this is a microcosm of the world with all these international people here and we're all celebrating. And then, having this really cosmic music. And when you hear it outdoors, and especially at events at night, and I did hear Mick play this outdoors at night, I'm sure, there was just this sense of connecting beyond this planet as well. So beautiful, beautiful track. Alpha Flight by Cyberjam. I will sign off now and leave you with the whole thing. I'm Mark, DJ Solitaire. Enjoy Cyberjam's Alpha Flight, and I will see you next time.